Mrs. Carter, without a donor, he has 48 hours left. These words sliced through like a knife, and in that silent moment, Juliet realized her empire, her fortune, none of it mattered. The sterile room around her faded as her mind raced back through the years, replaying each moment she had been absent, each birthday, each conversation she had missed. Rain slammed against the black SUV as it sped toward St. Daniel's Hospital. Inside, Juliet Carter's hands were locked together, fingers white from the pressure, eyes fixed on nothing. Billionaire, CEO, woman who conquered poverty. Yet tonight, she felt powerless again. The driver glanced in the rearview mirror. "Ma'am, are you sure you want to drive through this storm?" Juliet didn't respond. Her mind was somewhere else. Years ago, in a dimly lit hospital corridor. She remembered that night like a wound that never healed. Her husband's chest pressed against her shoulder, gasping for air. She ran from one hospital to another, begging, pleading. Every door closed. Every doctor said the same thing. Payment first. Her father had no money. She had no money. And he had no chance. She promised herself then, "I will never be powerless again." And she kept it, mercilessly. Built an empire, bought the world. Yet in that pursuit, she buried her humanity. Joel, only 19, lay somewhere in St. Daniel's Hospital, now fragile, struggling against a heart that was failing. And she, Juliet Carter, was about to confront the consequences of her choices. She remembered the call. A trembling nurse, voice low, almost afraid. "Mrs. Carter, your son, he needs a heart. And time is short. We are yet to find a donor." Her stomach dropped. Not because she didn't have the money, she had more than enough, but because she realized for the first time in years, money isn't enough. The SUV skidded slightly as water pooled on the road. Juliet barely noticed. She was consumed by one thought. I cannot lose my son too. The hospital loomed ahead, neon lights reflecting in the rain. She stepped out, boots clicking against wet concrete. The lobby was a blur of nurses, alarms, and fluorescent light. Her eyes sought Joel, but he wasn't in the lobby. He was somewhere beyond, a boy who had grown too fast, who had learned too soon that the world didn't care. A nurse approached, face tight. "Mrs. Carter, he's in critical care. The doctor wants to speak to you first." Juliet nodded, swallowing the knot in her throat. They led her down the sterile corridor. Every step echoed like judgment. Every beep from monitors in the rooms along the hallway whispered failure. Then she saw him. Joel, pale and fragile, wires snaking around his body like he belonged to the hospital more than to her. His eyes, half open, met hers briefly. And in that glance, he said more than any words could. "You weren't here. You left me." Juliet's knees almost gave way. The world tilted. She wanted to reach him. She wanted to undo every moment she missed. Joel coughed weakly. His voice came out in a thin whisper. "Mum, before I turned 13, those were the only days I felt loved. After Dad died, you didn't just change. You left." Her throat burned. She opened her mouth to respond, but the words were useless against the weight of years lost. She knelt beside him, hands trembling on the metal rails. I'm sorry, my Jay. I wasn't there. Please hang on." A doctor appeared behind her, face pale, urgency in every line. "Mrs. Carter, without a donor, he has 48 hours. 48 hours. Juliet's heart dropped. Her empire meant nothing here. Nothing could buy time. And then she realized, time wasn't the only thing she had lost. Outside, the rain continued to fall. And in that moment, Juliet Carter understood. She had to face what her heart had buried, or she would lose everything. Juliet stayed by Joel's bedside, hands frozen above the sheets. The beeping of the monitors felt like a countdown, each pulse echoing through her chest. She looked at him, so fragile, so small in the hospital bed. 19, but life had carved lines of pain into his soul that no age should bear. "Joel," she whispered, voice shaking. "I didn't know. I didn't realize." He turned his head weakly, eyes tired but sharp. "You didn't realize? Mum, every night I waited for you. Every time I got sick, every time I fell, I waited for you to be there. And you weren't." Juliet felt something inside her fracture. Every penny she had, every empire she built, meant nothing if her own son thought she had abandoned him. Her throat tightened, tears threatening to fall. I thought if I gave you everything, you'd be safe. I didn't know love mattered more than money. I didn't see you." Joel coughed, a harsh, rattling sound. "Love matters. You missed it. You think money could fix what years of silence broke? The high school graduation you missed." Juliet lowered her head. The truth cut deeper than she expected. She remembered the nights he snuck cigarettes, the bottles she found, the bruised look in his eyes, not from school fights, but from loneliness, from her absence. A nurse entered quietly. "Mrs. Carter, we're doing everything we can, but a compatible donor is rare. Matching tissue, blood type. It's not simple." Juliet clenched her fists. "Do whatever it takes. Money is no limit. I don't care about paperwork, logistics, or protocols. Find a heart." The nurse hesitated, something unsaid in her eyes. Juliet pressed further. "Tell me everything. I'll pay anything, sign anything. Don't let him die." Joel coughed again, quieter this time, almost whispering. "I don't want to die. Mum." That statement hit harder than the rain outside. She realized her empire couldn't erase the past. Her wealth couldn't undo years of absence. Every moment she had spent building herself had cost her a piece of him. The doctor entered again, this time with more urgency. "We have a small list of potential donors, but time is critical. Compatibility is the challenge. There are variables we can't control." Juliet's stomach twisted. "Variables? My son is running out of time. What variables? Explain." The doctor's face was grim. "Tissue typing, blood group, organ viability. Not every heart matches, and even when one does, the patient must be stable enough for surgery." Juliet's hands trembled. She wanted to scream, to shake the world into compliance. But she knew yelling wouldn't bring him back. Money wouldn't either. She sat beside Joel, brushing a damp lock of hair from his forehead. "I failed you, but I will not fail you now. We will find it, Joel. Somehow, we will." Joel's eyes met hers for the first time, with a glimmer of recognition, of connection, but shadowed with pain. "It's not just the heart, Mum. It's the love that should have been here all along. It's not too late to try. But I'm scared." Her heart ached. Fear for him, fear for herself, fear for all the wasted years. The magnitude of her absence pressed down, suffocating her. Juliet whispered almost to herself, "I will make this right. I swear, I will make this right." Outside, the rain continued to hammer the city, and inside, the ticking of time became deafening. Every second a reminder. Money could buy anything but time, and time was what she needed most. Juliet left Joel's room, the weight of helplessness pressing down on her chest. The sterile corridors of St. Daniel's Hospital stretched endlessly, fluorescent lights reflecting off the polished floors, every step echoing her failure. She stepped outside into the hospital garden, letting the cold air hit her face. Her chest heaved, lungs burning, mind racing with guilt. A nurse wheeled a man beside her, early 30s, too thin, pale, with eyes that seemed to carry lifetimes of pain. She barely noticed him at first, until he spoke. "Stop here," he whispered to the nurse, and then looked at Juliet with a small, knowing smile. "Rough day?" Juliet blinked. She wasn't used to kindness, especially from strangers. "You could say that," she muttered, voice tight. "I've built everything, and I still feel like I've lost it all." The man studied her, as if weighing her soul. "You look like someone holding the world with one hand," he said softly. "Trying to save everything, but forgetting to truly live." Juliet froze. Every word landed like a hammer. She had always believed wealth meant security. She had always believed that giving everything else could substitute for love. And here was a stranger, dying, who saw her truth instantly. I built an empire to never lose anyone again," she said, voice breaking. "But somehow, I am about to lose the ones I love the most." He nodded slowly. "You can have a working mind while still having a loving heart. You can build wealth and still love the generation it affects. You don't have to choose." Juliet felt her throat tighten. His words weren't just kindness, they were a shock. A mirror she didn't want to look into, reflecting her years of absence. My son, he grew up too fast," she whispered, "and I wasn't there." For the first time in years, she spoke without the armor of business, without control, without strategy. She allowed herself to just be human. The man smiled, faint but warm. "For someone who says they lost their heart, you still speak like you have one." Then Juliet noticed the tremor in his hands, the shallow, uneven breaths. "You're sick," she said softly. I hope you get better." He looked toward the rising sun. "My last wish is just to see the sun. Maybe it was fate that I saw you today." Juliet's chest tightened further. Shock and awe collided. She realized that this fragile stranger, barely holding on to life himself, had shown her more compassion than she had shown her son in years. You are dying," she whispered. "And yet you—" He shook his head, weak but resolute. "Sometimes, what we can give is more powerful than what we take. Don't let the world harden you. Don't make the same mistakes." And then, just like that, he was gone. The nurse wheeled him away down the corridor. Juliet stood frozen, her heart pounding, mind racing. Who was he? How could someone she barely knew teach her more about love than all her years of wealth and success? And then the alarms from the ICU cut through the morning air, piercing and urgent. Juliet's breath caught. Something inside her warned that the night was far from over. Juliet returned to Joel's room, drenched from the rain, heart still hammering from the encounter in the garden. For the first time, she felt a spark of clarity. Something had shifted, not just her strategy, but her heart. The doctor entered, clipboard in hand, face serious but not grim. "Mrs. Carter, there's been movement on the donor list. One potential match may work. We're expediting tests, but it's early. Compatibility isn't guaranteed." Juliet's hands clenched. Relief surged, sharp and fragile. One step, one chance. Maybe. "Do whatever it takes. Every test, every specialist. I don't care about the cost," she said, voice steady. Joel's weak eyes fluttered open. "Mum, you're here. That's enough," he whispered, a faint smile breaking through his pain. She leaned closer. "No, not enough. I'm going to fight for you. I promise." The nurse moved quietly beside the bed. "Vitals are stable for now. He's resting better than before. Minimal complications from the meds. It's a good sign." Juliet exhaled. Relief washed over her, a momentary reprieve from the relentless storm inside her. For the first time in years, hope felt possible. Not manufactured, not bought, but fragile and real. She brushed a damp strand of hair from Joel's forehead, watching his chest rise and fall with steady rhythm. His breathing, once uneven, had normalized just slightly. Just enough to give her heart a reason to believe. Maybe we can make this right," she whispered. Joel's lips twitched, a ghost of humor in his pain. "Maybe," he echoed softly. Outside, the rain had slowed, the first rays of sun cutting through the clouds. Juliet's mind briefly replayed the man in the wheelchair, his frail smile, his gentle wisdom. That stranger had reminded her that compassion existed even in harsh reality. That knowledge fueled her determination. For the first time since the storm began, she allowed herself a moment to breathe, to believe that love could exist alongside wealth and that her son might yet survive. But beneath the relief, an undercurrent ran deep. Time was still scarce. Compatibility wasn't guaranteed. The relief was temporary, a pause before the next storm. Juliet took Joel's hand in both of hers, holding on as if her grip could anchor him to life itself. "We're going to get through this," she said. "I won't let go. Not now. Not ever." And Joel, weak but alive, held her hand back. For a fleeting moment, mother and son existed again, not as strangers, not as a failed family, but as two hearts clinging to hope in the same fragile world. The hospital room was quiet, but the tension was suffocating. Juliet stood by the window, watching the city lights blur in the rain. Her phone buzzed relentlessly. Calls from specialists, coordinators, labs. Every call brought a new complication. "Mrs. Carter," the head nurse said, voice tight. "The donor's blood type is compatible, but tissue typing is off. We might have to wait for another candidate. Surgery could be delayed, hours, maybe a day. His condition could worsen." Juliet's chest tightened. Hours could be the difference between life and death. She gripped the edge of the bed, feeling the weight of every decision she had made in her life. All the money she had spent, all the empires she had built, none of it mattered if she lost Joel now. Joel coughed harshly. "Mum, it's okay. I'm used to it." Her heart broke all over again. He wasn't okay, he just resigned. He had learned too early that the world didn't wait for anyone. And she, who had vowed never to feel powerless, had almost failed him in the same way she failed his father. Juliet knelt beside him, pressing her forehead against his arm. "I'm not letting this happen. Not again. I'll do whatever it takes, Joel. I swear it." The doctor entered, face pale. "We have a donor, but there's a complication. The heart is viable, but the donor is unstable. Surgery is high risk. There's no guarantee." Juliet swallowed hard, every instinct screaming to panic. Her fingers tightened around Joel's hand. "Do it. Do it now. Whatever the risk, save him." Time became an enemy. Every second was a battle. Monitors beeped in rhythm with her racing heartbeat. Nurses moved swiftly, preparing equipment, calling surgeons, double-checking compatibility. Every step was a calculated risk. Juliet remembered the man in the wheelchair, the stranger who had spoken to her in the garden. His words echoed in her mind. "You don't have to choose between wealth and love. You can still have both." She realized the irony. She had spent years using money to feel secure, to avoid loss. Now, for the first time, money alone wasn't enough. She needed love. She needed presence. And she needed courage, the kind that had nothing to do with power. Joel's hand trembled in hers. "Mum, I'm scared," he whispered. "I know," she said, voice tight. "But we fight. Together. We fight." And then, a sudden alert from the monitoring system. Joel's oxygen levels dropped sharply. Nurses rushed in. Juliet could barely breathe. Time slowed. Every second stretched unbearably. Machines beeped faster. Monitors flashed red. She held his hand, unwilling to let go, even as the chaos swirled around her. The doctor's voice cut through the storm. "We have to operate immediately, now. This is the only viable donor. He's unstable, but if we don't act, he won't make it." Juliet's stomach lurched. High stakes, no guarantees. And yet, she felt a fierce determination take root. This is it. This is what it means to be a mother. No power, no money, no control. Just love. She kissed Joel's forehead. "Hold on, I'm right here. I'm not leaving. Not now. Not ever." As the team wheeled Joel toward the operating theatre, Juliet's mind raced. Every mistake, every absence, every failure in her life culminated in this moment, and she had no choice but to face it. The operating room was a sterile battlefield. Surgeons moved with precision, machines hummed, monitors beeped incessantly. Juliet sat in the waiting area, fingers clutching the edge of a chair, heart hammering so violently it seemed to echo in her ears. Minutes stretched into agonizing hours. Every beep from the ICU felt like a countdown. One wrong sound, one flat line, and everything would shatter. She thought of Joel's father, of the night she lost him. She thought of every moment she had been absent, every choice she made in pursuit of power. Would it cost her son, too? A nurse came out, eyes downcast. "Mrs. Carter, they're still operating. It's complicated. The donor's heart reacted unexpectedly. We're managing, but it's delicate." Juliet's stomach knotted. She wanted to scream, to burst into the operating room and force time to stop. She wanted to trade places with her son, to take every risk herself, to shoulder the pain. Her phone buzzed. Messages, alerts, news updates. None of it mattered. Money had no weight here. Power had no value. Love alone mattered, and she had wasted years building empires while her son grew up feeling invisible. She thought back to the man in the garden, the stranger who had given her a glimpse of compassion in a world that demanded ruthlessness. His frailty, his gentle wisdom. He had understood what I could not see in my own son, she realized. Juliet pressed her hands to her face, leaning forward until her forehead touched the cold floor. She whispered into the silence, "I'm here, Joel. Hold on. Please, hold on." The monitors beeped faster. A sudden call came from the OR. Juliet bolted upright. "Yes?" she gasped. The doctor's voice was calm but edged with tension. "Mrs. Carter, the heart is weak. It's a fight. He's responding, but barely. Any complication now could be fatal." Juliet felt the ground drop beneath her. Every instinct screamed dread. This is it. The one moment that defines everything. And I can do nothing but wait. She imagined Joel's tiny hands, his thin frame, the faint smile he had given her earlier. She saw his cigarettes, his bottles, symbols of a void only she had the power to fill. And now, that void could claim him entirely. Time slowed. Each beep, each breath, each second was stretched into eternity. Nurses whispered updates she couldn't fully hear. Doctors conferred in rapid-fire medical jargon, and Juliet sat frozen, trapped between hope and terror. Her eyes closed, and she imagined the man's voice again. "You can still have a loving heart. Don't harden yourself. Don't make the same mistakes." But even his words couldn't soothe the dread clawing at her chest. She realized in this moment that survival wasn't guaranteed. Love wasn't guaranteed. Time wasn't guaranteed. And in the quiet, amidst the hum of machines and the sterile smell of disinfectant, Juliet understood something she had never fully grasped. Life is fragile, and sometimes even a mother's wealth and power cannot bend fate. She clenched her fists so hard they ached. "I will not fail him. I will not fail him." A nurse called her name. "Mrs. Carter, he's stable for now. The surgery succeeded, but it was touch and go. He's in recovery." Juliet exhaled shakily, relief and terror mixed in every fiber of her being. But the dread didn't fully leave. She knew the path ahead would demand more of her, more love, more presence, more courage than she had ever given. Outside the recovery room, the first morning light broke through the clouds. But inside Juliet's chest, the storm raged on. Juliet sat beside Joel's bed, fingers intertwined with his frail hand. The monitors beeped steadily now, a rhythm that felt like a heartbeat restored, not just his, but hers too. She hadn't realized how tightly she had been holding herself together until she could finally exhale. Joel stirred, eyes opening slowly. He looked at her, and for the first time in years, There was recognition without resentment. "Mum." His voice was weak, but there was a hint of relief, of hope. "I'm here, Joel," she whispered, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I'm here. Fully. Completely. And I'm not leaving again." He tried a faint smile. "You stayed." "Yes," she said, squeezing his hand gently. "I stayed. And I'll stay. I'll do better, I promise. Every day from now." The memory of the man in the wheelchair returned, his weak smile, his gentle wisdom. Juliet thought of his words. "You can still have a loving heart. Don't harden yourself." She realized the truth. The man hadn't just saved her son's life, he had saved her capacity to feel again. Days passed. Joel's strength returned slowly, each breath easier than the last. Juliet made a conscious effort, sitting with him, talking with him, asking about his thoughts, his feelings, even his teenage mistakes, the cigarettes, the drinks, the silence. And for the first time she listened without judgment, without urgency, without business. One morning a doctor approached her, voice gentle. "Mrs. Carter, the donor heart was from a man who passed away the night before surgery. He left a signed release, no name, just one line. 'Give my heart to whoever still has someone left to love.'" Juliet's knees buckled. Tears fell freely, not just for Joel, but for the stranger who had shown her the power of compassion. He had died so that her son could live. And in his final act, he had taught her the most valuable lesson she had ever received. Love cannot be bought. Love must be given. She went to the garden, where the man had sat beside her, and whispered into the morning sun, "Thank you for teaching me how to feel again." When she returned to Joel, she held him close. "I can't change yesterday, but I can be here today, and every day after, fully, completely." Joel squeezed her hand, eyes bright. "I believe you, Mum." And in that moment, Juliet Carter felt something she hadn't felt in decades. The warmth of connection, the forgiveness of lost years, the fragile, beautiful redemption that comes not from wealth or power, but from love. She understood, finally, that the people who save us aren't always family. Sometimes they are strangers who pass through our lives long enough to show us what truly matters. Juliet let herself smile, genuinely, at her son, at life, at the fragile heartbeat that now beat within him, within them both. The world outside was still vast, still indifferent, but inside the hospital room, love had returned, and it was enough. Sometimes the people who save us aren't family. Sometimes they aren't friends. Sometimes they're just souls passing by, long enough to remind us that humanity still exists. So if you're listening to this, learn to love even when it feels like there is no time. Pack your bags and visit that relative. Call that person you miss. Forgive someone. Hug a stranger. Live life. Don't just exist. Because tomorrow is not promised, and it costs nothing to be kind and loving. Sometimes the heart that saves us comes from someone we only met for a moment. Spread the love from here. Like, comment and subscribe. Let love and kindness lead.